filming?
Got about 10 minutes.
We're still filming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to come in and say hello?
Is you okay? Hi, Danny.
No, come in. It's all right. We paused anyway. Martin just got a big delivery of stones.
Martin just washed his face.
Finished. If they're just hoovering, if you want to quickly
Oh, yeah.
carry on.
Yeah.
My turn. My turn to dart. Yeah, do you want to speak to them?
Oh, bless him.
Hand on top.
There we go. Who's this?
Hello.
Hello.
You say ba 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 ba. Say ba 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 ba.
Bye-bye, Dada. Bye-bye, Dada.
Is this what I look like?
Yeah. No, you don't look that good, so.
Oh, what are you doing?
There we go.
Da-da-da-da-da. Hey, Dada. Say, we hate Man United.
So confused.
If they can't hear what you're saying.
Brilliant. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 32 of the Final Whistle podcast. Beautiful smile by Nathan and Anthony there for those viewers who are watching us visually. Post Euros, post all the nonsense that's gone on in Euros, but I think that's been battered. We've reissued a cut of our episodes with the amazing and the incredible Troy Townsend to reiterate that, racism has no place in football and no place in society. But let's keep pushing to get the FA to do something about it, and social media profiles and companies to do something about it. But talking about the FA, they released a statement saying that they restructured the FA after Neil Barry left. Don't think it's been a very productive tenureship for Neil Barry. Can't really put my finger on anything that's really had continuity. The mentoring scheme, the referee strategy, the coaching scheme has been changed. The National Referee Development Programme was changed to core. All these, there's been no consistency. And I just hope that now we've been told that Peter Ellsworth, who I'm not sure is a qualified referee or is a referee, I don't know, but he's a good guy. And the incredible, I think it's incredible, Danny Mason, who's being promoted to run it. Those of you who don't know about Dan, he was a 2B referee, very well respected. I think he stepped down from 2B. I'm not sure if he's still doing it or not. I'm denying him really in his role, but he is a fine educator of referees. Don't hear many people say anything bad about Dan. I personally have engaged with him my time at the FA and when I was running the regional academies. Dan's a good man. And I just like to think what you two think about these. I know you don't really know Danny and Peter Ellsworth, but on the announcement the FA made, the FA referees departments, Freya Allen wasn't on it, Joe Stimson wasn't on it, Richard Glyn Jones wasn't on it, and Steve Tanner wasn't on it. Now, I'm sure they're all still in place, but if they're talking about the referees departments, why would they leave for relatively influential people in referee education and development off that list? I don't get it. Now with Joe, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Joe because the PGMOL are about to announce the senior women's elite referee development officer or whatever, manager, whatever they're going to be called. So I don't know where that leaves their job. But I just think, particularly for Richard and Steve Tanner, I'm really, really shocked that they were on that list. What do you two think?
Well, I think that, I don't, like I said to you, I don't know too much about these people. Obviously, you work with them and things like that in the past, and that's a little bit different. But what I have to say is, I've had really good communications with Farai, and I've been part of workshops with him online with county FAs and things, and his content is always really considered and well thought out, and what he gives to referees when he delivers workshops and stuff it's really good nuggets. And I have to say the same about Daniel Mason as well. I've watched a lot of the workshops he's delivered in particular, and one of the things I really like about him is the fact that he's a very down to earth person who just says, look, he's a normal guy. I think he started one of the workshops I saw, just explaining about him, you know, saying, you know, I think he said something along the lines of, I think he's a Stoke fan and he's got wife and kids and he likes a glass of wine on the weekend. And so just really humanising that role as well, which is, I think, something that's really important when it comes to referees, because people look at the badge and they think we're robotic and we don't have friends, we don't have lives. And I think the fact that he works on that and he's an ambassador for the fact that referees are human beings and we think about things and things hurt us and we want to get things right and things like that. I think, you know, he's done a wonderful job. And the last one I just want to say as well, because obviously I don't know too many of these people too well, but I have to say, Richard Glyn-Jones has just come out in recent times with the mental health champions scheme for the FA, which has been rolled out. I believe that they've had a successful rollout on the first wave and are now going for the second wave, so that more counties can be a part of that in the second rollout. So I think that's been a huge positive, and I know that he was the man behind that. I had the pleasure of being on one of the online courses with Hayley Jarvis from Mind, as well as Richard Glyn-Jones, who's giving a lot of advice about his mental health champions and giving a lot of advice about mental health guidance and training for referees who are involved in that. And I got to meet some of the mental health champions in my area through that as well, over a Zoom session on one evening, 3-4 hours. And I just think that, you know, this has been an incredibly successful campaign that we've got there that's coming into reality now. And it's something that we need to, you know, consider, thinking about as we go forward, because obviously mental health is something that we just had a pandemic. Mental health strain is at a greater level than it's ever been at, and the fact that Richard Glyn-Jones, he probably had this in the pipe work before, or in the pipeline, I should say, before the pandemic hit. But I think mental health champions and any form of mental health support is even more valuable now after what we've experienced in the last 18 months. So I think that, you know, whatever he's going to be doing in this new restructure, whatever he's going to be doing, the legacy that he's left from the last post he's held is going to be a really vital one, I think, going in the next couple of seasons in particular.
Yeah, you've pretty much covered everything that I could have possibly said there. So I've not really got much to add to it, apart from to say the names will be familiar with people. The absence of the names that Martin mentioned, it will also be like, well, where are they? Especially with like the likes of Farai and Joe, who have they're oftentimes the people that are put out by the FA or the refereeing department when a Vox or a talking head needs to go out there and say something. They've got very big personalities, very, very presentable to cameras and stuff like that. So for them to not be there, that I'm just, at some point their role will be clarified, I'm sure. But for now, it's left a lot of people scratching their heads. Where are they? What are they doing? But, you know, it's like you said, Neil Barry has been in place for such a long time. It feels like he's thrown a lot of stuff at the wall. Some of it has stuck, some of it not so much. Some of the schemes that came out for FA refereeing have been brilliant. The reward scheme, I remember when I first started, you refereed a game, you got 10 points, you save the points at the end of the season, and you get yourself kit, you can get yourself England tickets, you can get yourself, loads of cool things. It was a really good scheme, and it was dropped. Nothing to
do with Neil Barry.
Well,
that was Blanchard. Ian Blanchard, Roger Vaughan.
As FA refereeing, though, in terms of, well, he'd have been in there somewhere.
See, that's interesting. At the time, there was professional game and national game. There was two heads. When Neil Barry took his role, I think it was John Baker left, or Joe Guest. They sort of split the departments because they couldn't really have one figure out there for some stupid breeding reason. So you literally had this wall between national game and professional game. And when I was there, I was part of the professional game side of it. So I worked under Neil Barry and Vaughan and people like that. Janie Frampton, another one, worked under Blanchard. It was just like really strange. Someone used the word strange to involve something with the FA. really strange sort of department. It was almost
well, there we go. Even it's okay. So for me, looking back now, because there isn't this open transparency about who does what and what the roles are and why certain schemes or things get put into place and or don't get put into place and who the person responsible is. Because that's all shrouded in darkness. Assumptions are made. So remember when I did the or the journalist wanted to do the Tonight with Trevor McDonald piece about abuse to referees with me. When I emailed the FA, it was Ian Blanchard and Neil Barry that were replying back to me. So for me, I didn't see a divide. But for you, who was working in the upper echelons at that time, you will have seen that divide. So again, I suppose it depends where in the system you're working, depends on how familiar you are with each individual person's role and responsibilities. But in terms of, look at being at the bottom and looking up, you just kind of, you see people in that position, you think, there you go, you're top of the pyramid, you're kind of responsible for everything.
And it's this, we're also, the grassroots game is so disenfranchised from PO Box 1966 Wembley. That no one really knows. Even you guys who are pretty switch on. What's Farai's role? What does Richard Green Jones do? What does Steve? What are the roles? What did he do? Well, do you know?
Well, this is it. Well, like I said with Farai, whenever there's something, when someone needs to go and be a mouthpiece for FA refereeing, Farai, get yourself out there, do that, mate, and.
What's his role? And this is it's always been weird, and I think that's the way I don't think that's the way Fry, Richards, and Tanner won it. That's the way it seems to be the organisation. The past has needed it.
Well, it's perception as well. It's got to be about perception of what people see.
Yeah, we'll tell you what to do. Don't ask us questions. Yeah. And there's always been this. I just hope that for the years there's been this disconnect. Really, always came across as rude. And many people have said it, rude. Many people have said he's detached, very, just curt. That sort of ran down. Then he went to the appointments officers with Dave Cook. Dave Cook, who used to just think it was appropriate to write back and go noted on emails. Hello, Dave. I've just lost my dog and my leg fell off. Can't do games for the next 6 weeks. Noted. This sort of like unpersonal touch. The one thing I will say which surprised me is Steve Tanner. My experience with Steve Tanner was never mega positive, but he seems to be one that has got that personal touch. And I was surprised when I looked at it when Neil Barry was going, and if I did a betting order of who had real credibility to be in that role. Steve Tanner's got ex-FIFA referee, ex-Premier League referee. Don't really know why he left the Premier League, but credibility credibility coming out of his ears. Peter Ellsworth, who's gone up there, I don't think he's ever refereed. I'm not sure, I might be wrong, but nowhere near what Sam's at. So that in itself, I think, is a very strange appointment in regards to credibility. We're in the group, although Peter is a talented administrator and gets his head around the politics of appointing and stuff like that. He was appointing the National League appointments and stuff like that, did quite well at that. I know now it seems to be that the appointments officer does the contract has stepped up to that, and there's been movements all around. But I just thought when that announcement was made, if I worked in the referees department and I was Farai, Joe, Richard Glyn Jones, Steve Tanner, and I wasn't mentioned in that like public announcement to everybody, it went out to all 2Bs, I'd be sitting there thinking, what's all that about? Did they actually say to people, we're going to put this out? What do you think? Or that they do what in my opinion normally happens in the past, my experience, they just do what they want and just go, is this one big department? Or are those four doing something else that the referee departments aren't doing? I just found it really, really bizarre. And I know there's going to be restructures because when the FA announced everybody was going, they actually said we're going to use this as an opportunity to restructure the FA referees departments. But so what you said about this, recognising the two departments when Blanche was doing it, and Blanche was a really good guy. Many people were disappointed that Blanche didn't get that head of refereeing role because he was credible, Premier League assistant referee and stuff. Really likeable lad. Top lad, Blanche. And many people were confused why he didn't get it and Neil Barry did. And then if you think about it, if they chose it because he was a Premier League referee, well, why didn't he do the same with Steve Tanner? So there's no consistency at all. I just don't seem. They would say, "Oh, Neil Barry's 12 years ago, whenever it was. Neil Barry was he's been given a job. He's good, but he's also an ex-Premier League referee. That's why Blanche didn't get the role. So we split it into two. Here we are now. Steve Tanner's not even mentioned. Not even mentioned. And Peter Ellsworth goes in, who arguably was far less credible than Blanchard when the decision was made and other stuff. It's these sorts of inconsistencies that no one seems to be prepared to discuss. And I think where we sit, and we do get a bit of stick from it, from the people who can gain by being nice on message with the FA, they just don't like us discussing these things. They just want them to say, this is what we're doing, and you've got absolutely no say in it whatsoever. But we're just going to tell you anyway. It's the
old hat way of thinking. It's the old way of thinking, because we live now in the age of two things: information and communication. Everyone carries a phone around with them 24 hours a day, right? So the information is with you at the touch of a button. The entire human intelligence up until this point, every piece of knowledge that's ever existed or been thought about is in the palm of your hands. And now, okay, so that's one side. That's the logical side. The emotional side, anything, like you say, when you reply to someone with a bit of empathy on an email and the person just replies, noted, that's got to be gone as well, because now we realise, Nathan, mental health is affected by stuff like that. If you think someone in a position of authority or someone that's meant to look after you in whatever role is just like, I don't really care about your personal circumstances, I just care what I can get from you. Yeah, that doesn't work anymore.
I believe that was their modus operandi. So yeah. I think they actually, strategy was, some people in that, I believe some people, and there's still at least one person there saying, that's the strategy, let's scare them.
Robot refs.
Let's put that pressure on them. Let's say that don't answer back. They'll be limited to your consequences. David Ellery, I heard David Ellery say he is the kingmaker. He's the kingmaker because he appoints futsal FIFA referees, and the FIFA referees the kingmaker. I don't think that attitude, and you see he's still in place, and you know all the stuff we documented about what he's done, right up to a current issue now with the racism issue, and what he said, he had to apologise. Lord Ousley said he should go. Here we are years later, still in position, no consequences whatsoever for his actions. But don't you dare tweet a tiny little bit of criticism of someone, because you'll get charged. But the referees, chairman of the referees committee and IFAB technical director can actually apologise for racial comments still in his place and then judge people with beards, bellies and tattoos. I just hope that needs to go, and I hope Peter and Danny really take it forward, and my fingers are crossed, because they are good people. They are good people, no doubt about it. And I just feel there's a big chance here. There's a big chance to reconnect with the grassroots fraternities. Don't say that that's up to county FAs. No. Don't do that. Let's reconnect. Let's be positive. Let's be open, and let's be transparent. And I wish both of them all the best in their new roles.
I completely agree, Martin. And I think that, when we look at Farai, just to go back to Farai briefly, I obviously, like I say, I've been part of workshops with him when we've been doing the third team, and he's been delivering some insight into various different bits and pieces. I remember one thing he did about technical area management and things like that as part of his work and things like that. So I think he's done some really, really good stuff. But what I also think is, I noticed the other week with Farai that he'd actually completed a UEFA diploma in football leadership and management. That hopefully that's something that the FA has supported him with, and something that he can then bring those expertise back to the FA, and the referees at all levels can feel the benefit of as well. Is having somebody with those experiences and that investment of knowledge, because when you have somebody who's upskilling like that, and they're working for the National FA ref, and that can only be a good thing. And hopefully, like we say, there will be some benefit from that. And just at a personal note, we talk about personal touches and things like that. I hope that Farai, I know he's been injured recently. I hope that he recovers well, because I know that he's ambitious with his own refereeing career. I didn't
know he'd been injured, and Farai's a good guy. I think that, particularly with Neil Barry going, I think what you just said there, some of those qualities need to shine. And I just felt in the past, particularly getting rid of David Ellery, I just feel they're not allowed to shine. I just feel, there's some very, very talented. I didn't know for eyes. Do
you remember when we had Gary Bloom on the podcast, and he said, you need to have strong leaders at the top with strong principles and good strategy, and then the rest of the pyramid will fall into place. The lower ends of the pyramid, I think it's fair to say, is chaotic right now. Numbers are dropping off, disenfranchised, all that sort of stuff. And you've got to say, is it because it's filtering back up to the top of the pyramid here? Everyone's looking up for guidance, for leadership and inspiration, and it's maybe a bit lacking, or at least it has been up until now.
I agree. And I think there's almost been a contraceptive for people opening up with the FA. A contraceptive to stop them being really true, really personable. They're all very beige in the personalities. But I know, have a pint with them or have a chat with them or get them in a room away from the prying eyes, that they're top drawer individuals, and I really hope they can take things forward.
That was the restructure of the FA referees department. Time will tell how it turns out, and obviously those people we mentioned that weren't included in that shifty around, I'm sure we'll find out where they'll end up soon enough. You know how we like to throw match incidents at you, Mart, and
the referee's toolbox.
The referee's toolbox, or Martin's tip. If you want to feel Martin's tip, you can do if you buy him a drink. But
just the one.
He's a cheap date, I'll tell you now. It doesn't have to be alcoholic. But recently in a game, there was. So we're in a public park. It's a youth game. I'm going to say under 13s.
Okay.
We've got about 5 or 6 similarly aged boys on the sideline, and they're shouting all sorts of grief to the players, to their mates though.
Oh, really?
So they're calling their mate, so they're there supporting their mate's team, but they're calling him and his teammates, saying stuff like, "You fat bastard, you fat bastard." And when they make a bad pass, "You're shit." And the language is awful and all that sort of stuff. As the referee, what can I do to curtail that behaviour, potentially remove it? Bearing in mind we're in a public park and in terms of the referee's jurisdiction of the football match, what can we do?
To me, it's a tricky one. Only because if the kids are doing that, the managers must be not dealing with it, so they must find it acceptable.
Yep.
So the people you're going to go to is the manager. Then you have this situation where you're turning off the kids and their parents might be there. Don't you talk to my effing kids like that. So you have got a bit of a cocktail for it. I wouldn't necessarily stop the game. I'd probably wait in an actual stoppage and just say, hang on, peeps, just hang on, peeps, and just say to someone, listen, do you really think that's appropriate? To our children using that language. Here we are, we're trying to make the whole game nice sunny day. I presume we've had good weather lately. We've all missed football, terrible. But we haven't missed that. Yep. Incidentally, when you've got that in an adult game, one of the ways I used to frame it is wait for a natural stoppage. You've got like a manager really giving it loads in the technical area. Is position yourself far enough away from the technical area and just say, "Hey, listen, I can hear you. Don't make me listen to you." That's the big difference I used to say.
Yeah.
Don't make me listen to you. And it's because if you go there, shut up, no, won't you? Just say, "Hey, I used to do something like that." Whatever phrase will work for you. Obviously, with adults, you've got to take a bit more responsibility because you've got to tell the person in charge to take charge of the people who's involved in this game. I would say that, if it goes on longer, that's a safeguarding issue. I would try and frame it as a safeguarding issue, or scare them and say, "Do you realize that could be a safeguarding issue?" All the ramifications of that. Just saying, I'm a big strap-on lad. I use that language myself, but I wouldn't swear at me now.
Yeah.
Can you just have a word? It's not the right environment that's conducive to positive football. That's how I would deal with it. But I always find that if they're aggressive, don't over-aggress them. The biggest tip, never compete with them on the aggression, on the language. Just throw water on it rather than throw petrol on it.
Yeah.
Just say, hey lads or ladies, do you really need to do that? Do you really need to do that? And I think it's the escalation, almost like a stepped approach. With men, you could use the perpetrator, then the coach, then whoever. With children, I think you've got to do the other way around. You've got to leave the perpetrators to last time you say, listen, can you please have a word? Because obviously then you're going to have the problem. Don't talk to my kids like that if you go to the kids. So it's just being mindful of what can sort of bite you back and how you do that. But, stick that one in your toolbox. I think that with adults, perpetrators last, perpetrators first, then escalate it to the people in control. With children, other way around, go for the people in control and ask them to deal with it and say, look, do you really think it's acceptable?
Yeah. Use the authority figure. Because I think a lot of kids as well don't see the referees as an authority figure. The most interaction they have with referees is in the game of FIFA. When they're playing on FIFA, they don't get a decision they want. They all scream at their television because the referee is not a real thing. And so when they take that attitude out onto the field as well, the referee is not a thing. It's not a person. It's not a position of authority. It's just a direction machine. Which direction is that throw in? Is it a goal kick, corner kick, offside, whatever?
What do you think, Nate?
I don't know. I agree with what you say about, in terms of the escalation, you do it differently depending on what kind of football you're officiating. But I look at it and I think, well, it's an interesting one because earlier on in my refereeing career, like when I just first qualified, I used to get rid of people from touchlines like there was no tomorrow. I honestly did. It was that honestly I used to do. And this is before we had red and yellow cards for technical area occupants and all sorts of things. I used to just bin people off. There was one game I remember I got rid of 4 people from one team on the touchline. And it was like, I used to just do it. But I think that when you get older, your management techniques and your authority and the way that the way you fit the shirt, so to speak, grows and it becomes a bit easier. But I can understand, particularly now I'm thinking about it from the perspective of a young referee who's maybe quite newly qualified, it can be quite difficult. And one of the feedbacks I've heard from that is, the carding system for the technical area occupants has actually helped a lot of referees who might have lacked a bit of confidence to deal with those things. So I think that that could be that. And I'm not advocating that you would sort of make up the rules, so to speak, but you could potentially say, because obviously you can't technically say, if it's only a member of the technical staff, bench, whatever you want to call it, that can actually, the manager can take control of the conduct of. But you could maybe say, look, you're the responsible person here, and the discipline will come on you if I have to report something. Again, obviously, Martin, you saying maybe talk about it being a safeguarding issue. I think there's lots of things you can do that can help manage that situation and potentially try to bring things back under control. But that was the thing I was trying to establish at the beginning of the story, and whether they were spectators or substitutes.
Spectators.
I realised we were spectators as soon as we started to talk about this.
Yeah. I think you've
players. Sorry, I thought you were talking about players under 13s. Bloody hell, parents! Jesus Christ.
Well, no, they weren't parents. They were 13-year-old spectators who had wandered. So they're watching the game, but also they're just on the park or the field, wherever it is. I think you both touched on good things, what to do, but more importantly, what not to do as well. Because as I heard it, I was like, fuck, you can't be saying that. I wanted to go over there and be like, shut up, get out of here, rapscallions, and give you a clip round the ear. What I did, because it was building up, and it got to half time. And as half time happened, one of the players came up and said to me, ref, could you have a word with them? They are shouting things. It's really upsetting me. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But do you know who they are? Which team are they with? And he said they're this guy's mate. So his teammate's friend. Yeah. So I went over to the teammate and I said to him, you're right, mate. Do you know those lads over there? And he went, yeah. And I said, do you mind going over and having a word with them and asking them to move on or be quiet. And because what they're saying is getting a little bit out of control, it's affecting the game. And then obviously I don't want to have to abandon the game. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And as it was, half time lasted so long that these people got bored and just fucked off anyway. So the situation solved itself. But you know, that was my approach. It was also the game where there was a pony.
Yes, I saw that.
The pony, there was a mascot, and I was like, I'll deal with that first, but I really want to get a photo with this little Shetland pony. So,
what did you do? Did you ask somebody to take a picture for you?
Well, yeah, the horse had
the kids that were swearing.
Yeah.
Take a picture of me with a pony.
Yeah. I said, come and stand behind this horse. Just smacked it.
Listen, it probably looked like a Shire horse to me. With pony.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's easy. It's. I know you threw that one at me blank, which is something we're going to do every episode. But funny enough, last night someone tagged me in a video of Warnock, Neil Warnock.
Our mate.
Yeah,
this was at
year.
Yeah, this was at Bishop Auckland, Martin, who are a Northern League club. Yeah, this was at Bishop Auckland. Middlesbrough played a friendly against Bishop Auckland. They're a Northern League club. And Bishop Auckland were providing the sort of live coverage for that Middlesbrough was streaming to their fans. And yeah, it's a video which we can probably put the link in. And to basically Neil Warnock, it's a set of clips from I think it's only even from the first half, where he's basically speaking in aggressive terms towards the referee and the assistant referee, and it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. But it just shows the difference between the Riverside Stadium and somewhere like Heritage Park, where Bishop Auckland played, because you can hear absolutely everything on those Supply League grounds.
Unbelievable disgrace. Now, I think we talked about it, but I don't think I put it out publicly. The secretary of Middlesbrough Football Club wrote to me last time we had to go on him and says, "Can you tell me why, he's a joke?" It's just like, I questioned the things I said to him, that he's a disgrace. And I just said, look, if you're happy with employing someone who gives the club the perception that that's acceptable behaviour, then you do that. But I ain't going to leave him alone, because that behaviour then filters all the way down, right to children who were under 13 watching the game like you just said so.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And when people start recognising that and thinking that this dinosaur belongs off with the likes of Hackett and the other people that like to think it's great to spread and start and give birth to referee abuse that ends up being life-threatening, where they can say, "I'm going to murder you, I'm going to do this."
Well, yeah, go back to those kids as well. They'll have seen the hooligans behaving at that England game and thought that's how to behave at a football match.
Exactly.
They've seen it at the highest level, and now it's filtered down. Yeah. I'm not saying they wouldn't have done that in the first place, but Did
you see the video where the fans who had tickets were stopping the fans who were bunking in?
Yeah, I love that.
Kicking them, they were saying, "Pay your money, pay your money." If they were sat next to that bloke shouting racial abuse and the referee's a wanker, they wouldn't say a word.
No.
But when it comes to money, pay your money.
Yeah.
Just imagine if they responded to all that's wrong in football like they did about objecting that I paid and you never. Just imagine how wonderful football would be. Just imagine it. And I think, so let's see what happens if Middlesbrough come back to me, and I don't think they will, because the email I sent them was, you have it. You give me an opportunity to give you some grief, and I'm going to absolutely look that gift horse in the mouth, and I'm going to ram it down the throat. And then, let's just see what develops there. And I might write them an email and say, what do you think of this? And you know what, so how easy would it be? How easy would it be to do a graphic where you listen to that video, and every time he says a swear word, you go 1. You put a number on there.
Yeah.
And it does a counter, and then send it to them, tag him in, send it to the FA and say, what are you going to do about this? That's clearly that dinosaur of a manager. Swearing like that. We don't know if there's children around him. We don't know who's around him at all. What are you going to do about it?
If people can anonymously report to county FAs for something they've seen on social media, the conduct or the misconduct of people, then surely we as referees can look at that and say, well, I've seen this on social media. I know Neil Warnock's the manager of Middlesbrough. I know what county FA is. Maybe a charge of misconduct needs to be brought in the public interest.
And I think it should be like under E7 in it. Behaviour that proves you're a knobhead in football. E7, I think. I think that's E7. I'm pretty sure it's E7. Behaviour that's conducive to you being a knobhead dinosaur in football, section 2B. I think, but on a positive, all those people who were absolutely horrible to Rashford, and I can't get my head around it. I really can't get my head around it, why you can end up just going, I'm going to tweet like the people that they tweeted, and I just feel, I feel really saddened that it happens, but really happy about the response to it.
Yeah, it's a horrible minority that have done this, and sadly, you talk about it happening at the top and on social media unchecked, and it permeates down and down and down. And I think it was Portsmouth Academy. There's a group chat that has been going around, and it shows their players, Portsmouth Academy players, and forgive me if that it's the wrong team there, but I'm pretty sure it is. If not, I'll correct it in a graphic that I'll overlay on the screen. I won't share what has been said, but it is vile, the vilest of racial abuse. Now, if that's happening in WhatsApp groups and Snapchat group chats behind closed doors where people think they can say whatever and get away with it, maybe the minority isn't as small as people want to put out there. Maybe the minority, and the ever increasing vocal minority, is getting bigger and bigger because it's not being stamped out. It's not being tackled by the social media companies themselves, by the FA. You're talking about banning people who racially abuse from football forever. They'll still find ways to get into football grounds to watch the football. It's not going to stop it. Talk about educating them. How many education programs you need to say don't be racist? It's
not about education, it's about action. And I think this is the problem. And the people who are viewing this podcast rather than listening to it will have seen me smile when you mentioned Marcus Rashford. And the reason why I did that was, obviously, we talk about a really difficult subject. So when we talk about racism, I shouldn't be smiling. But the reason why I'm smiling when you mentioned Marcus Rashford is because he's actually younger than me. Okay, but I think I share a lot of the values that he does, and I think that I think a lot of people in my generation do share those values, and I think we are so disappointed in certain groups of people who are perpetuating this. I'm quite proud of people like Marcus. Another one, obviously. Well, to be honest, the other two that obviously missed the penalties as well, that were black players, were obviously younger than me as well. And so I'm really proud of the fact that these young guys are representing the country. We represent the country really successfully because we're in a final. We've not been in a final since 1966. But the fact is, they've had that, talk the bollocks about it or whatever, to go and have a go and to try to represent this country and to be open and to be honest about the fact that, yeah, I've got no problem in taking on this pressure and this weight of the nation. Because, they're part of a generation that's on social media. They know the pressure. They know that on every street and in every park and pub and up and down the land, coming home was being sung and said and all sorts. The pressure weighs so heavy on that. What the weight of expectation from the country is. The whole phrase "England expect," took on another dimension in the last few weeks. So I just think that, I'm really proud of what they've done and what they've achieved. And obviously, particularly with even you go right back to the middle of last season with the school dinners and things. The fact that these people are doing their jobs and doing it really well, but also having to take on a lot of social consciousness and doing the right things and using that platform. I think we all believe it, but they've taken the platform they've got and used it to really drive this change. And I think the fact that there's hostility towards them is a good thing, really, because it shows they are right and the people who think that they're the establishment are wrong. And ultimately, people in my generation will walk in the corridors of power eventually. That's how time works. You get people in government in their 40s, 50s and 60s generally. And we've got another 10, 15, 20 years before we get that. But my generation will walk the corridors of power. And I'm convinced that, a lot of people share the values that they've got and that things will change for the better, because I feel really proud about the fact that we've got a generation of tolerant people.
Yeah. I always feel disingenuous about talking about this issue because I'm white. I treat the subject like I would treat anything being audible to anybody as an individual, irrespective of the fact that it's colour. I've always said about, I was brought up a Catholic. Believe it or not, I was an altar boy. Believe it or not, I used to go to church every week. Christmas, when midnight mass comes on, I can recite every word that priest says and the replies, but I don't go to church. So I treat life like I would religion. I'm a Catholic, but I don't go to church. I'm Christian, but I don't really believe in God. I believe in being Christian-like. The idea of being Christian is just be good. Just try to be good. Try to do your best to help people. Accept everybody. Don't accept bullying. Don't accept people being horrible to other people. One of my faults is I try to fight everyone's battle for them. And sometimes it can be hard to fight everybody. And then you get people coming at me. And the only reason they're coming at me in the refereeing world is because they just believe everything that the FA tell them or whoever they're with. I'm not going to say nothing about them, even if Martin Cassidy's right, because I might lose my role. And the amount of times where I know I'm making effect is the amount of private messages I get from people who don't want to say that they agree with me on Twitter, even with a like. I get them almost daily on tweets that people catch up with. And I know it's working. And just like you, mate, I just hope the next generation thinks, do you know what? If one person says, I want to be a bit more like ref support and stand up and talk openly, knowing that there's not going to be a consequence of me having an opinion of your organisation. And if my opinion is right, then be prepared to say, do you know what? Fair play, he's right. If I'm wrong, batter me. But I just don't understand why people will sit next to someone and allow them to be abusive. I've never ever quite got that. I just never have. I've understood the journey of it, but I've never quite got it. The
thing is, Martin, I look at you, right, and the thing is, you say, oh, you feel really disingenuous. But the thing is, I know you on a personal level away from this podcast, right? And I think that if you opened up your phone book and your photo albums or whatever you want to call it, right, of the people that you know, people that you call friends, people that you spend time with, people you open your doors to, you've got black people in there, you've got Asian people in there, you've got homosexuals, you've got all sorts. And I think the love that you show to those people, no different in whatever form they come, people who are, the empathy that you've got. I know you've had, obviously your wife was very ill, you've got friends who've been very ill, you've been a rock for them. I just look and I think the love that you've shown to all those different people, because they are people and you see them as people exclusively, not black person or a gay person or whatever it might be. I just think that if people had that attitude, then we wouldn't be in the problem that we're in terms of this social media war that we seem to be facing now, because people would just be tolerant and accepting of everybody who's different. So I think you shouldn't feel disingenuous, because you actively practice what you preach and what you show, and the way that you behave in your communication, your social circle, and everything that goes with that is just leading by example, really. And I think you shouldn't feel disingenuous at all. You should feel proud that you are so well connected and your social circle is so diverse.
That means a lot. Thanks, mate. But it is, and again, I just see mates. I just see people I like. You know, I've met some horrible people who are white and rich. I've met some horrible people who are white and poor. I've met horrible people of all colours, creeds, and horrible people are horrible people. It's irrelevant of what they are, how they come towards you. I see a skeleton, really. Just see a skeleton, and my dad used to always say to me, bless him, and that always remember, lad, it's nice to be nice. It's also nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. Yeah. And one of my major faults is that I try to be nice, try to be nice. But when someone does something bad to me, I'm a really, really bad enemy. I can't let it go. I'm forgiven. I am forgiven. And people can genuinely make mistakes, but don't make a conscious effort to come at me, try to do numbers on me, and think I'm just going to sit there and let you apologise and accept it. There's the paradoxical argument with me, because I will literally give me all to everybody. It's why I wanted Ref Support to be a charity and not a business. I'll evolve other parts of referee support into a business without a shadow of a doubt, but it won't be a way to make millions. It'll just be a different concept, because different things work differently. But the whole idea of having a registered charity, I got laughed at. Referees, a registered referee charity, people laughed at me. You'll never even get registered status. What are you going to do? You're never going to get registered charity status. The whole reason is because I wanted to do it. Funny enough, I haven't told you this. Yesterday, I got a phone call off an organisation that runs about 5 leagues in the Southwest, from children up to adults, 500 clubs. They said, we're sick and tired of our county FA. We want you to do it all. We want you to do it all. We Ref Support do it all. How much will it cost? I said, nothing. He said, well, there must be a cost to it. So look, if you use our online e-learning, you get charged £10 for using that. So it's £10 a year. He said, but we got 30 referees. I said, well, it's 300 quid. I said, everyone who works for Ref Support doesn't ask for money. The people will give to us. They won't give to the county FA or the FA because there's something gone wrong there, and the FA or the county FA has done a number on them, or they've done things to them. So when these people get disenfranchised, there's only ever been the FA that offered that referee support. So literally, they just go out there on their own. I'm sure there's people who listen to this all over the UK who have got someone who just helps them in the refereeing world, not attached to a referee association in Ireland or Scotland or Wales or England, not attached to, just want to help. They just want to help. And that army of people out there has never really had an umbrella to protect themselves under until we came along. Yeah. That's what's slowly happening. And if I had more money to throw at Ref Support to be able to pay people to go out and do big marketing exercises and stuff like that, I would do it, because I absolutely know it will work. People will genuinely help something just to feel part of a community like us.
And the game is better for those types of people, the ones that are naturally just givers. They will give their time, energy, their effort, and expect nothing back, because what they know is that they're planting the seed so that person will grow up, and with those similar set of beliefs, when the time comes, they'll do the same thing for the next generation as well. Yeah,
very, very true. It's exciting what Nathan says. So Scott Jackson, who's a 2A, doesn't really talk about it on social media. He's got a cracking group of level 4s of all ages, from young kids to 50-odd-year-olds. Supporting them under the Ref Support bit, because he knew the support he got coming through from Richard Mellon, Dave Bram and me, and he gives back. But what happens is, like Cole, for instance, when you get kicked out of Cole, you get kicked out of Cole. There's no exit strategy. It's just, you get kicked out of Cole, and you're going from having this lovely t-shirt, me go, it's this. That's why I don't believe in Cole. Just support everybody.
Yeah. Just
support everybody and let the cream rise to the top. Support the people who don't want to get to the top. They want to be the best level 5 they ever want to be. They want to be the best level 7 they ever want to be. They don't want to be elitism. They want to enjoy their game of football a little bit more than they do now. That's all that's needed, not core. Not identify, they'll naturally come to the top. I just wish that mentality will change. And the early conversation about Farai and Danny Mason and Peter Ellsworth, I just hope they identify that. That's just name of all, how many Premier League referees has there been since the Premier League started? Where are they all? How many of them are helping referees give them back? Then go down to the Football League who got to the Championship. How many referees are there? Where are they giving back? Where are they? Why aren't they? Why? All those Premier League linos, I could rattle them all off. Top draw linos. Where are they? Why aren't they helping? And I think they get disenfranchised along the journey. I just think, I'm going to keep my head down, earn my money, and so I can't do it anymore. And then I'm going to just slope away quietly. They could rattle off a list of them. And that's shameful. Not shameful on those individuals. Shameful on the people who made them feel that way. Yeah. And I know them.
Yeah, shame on the system.
On the system, yeah. There's good people. And they go out on their own, helping people here, there, and everywhere. You'll see it pop up. Someone will say, I got promoted, thank you. So look at the name, you think, who are they? And you might look at us, they're not attached to anybody. They just give back. There's an army of people who's there to give back. And I want to be able to harness that positively and really, really help them. So look, if you ain't going to do it, FA, loads of people out here will do it. And they'll do it for nothing because they want to give back. But when they give it back under the FA banner, the FA get the credit, not the people who are giving up their time. Yeah. They're the people that give up. The FA will be nothing, absolutely nothing, without people giving up the free time on volunteers. From football to refereeing to administrators, there'd be nothing. That's what's wrong with the system. Yeah,
good points. And on that, we've run out of time. Gentlemen, thanks very much. It's always a pleasure. And we were saying right at the start, weren't we? You can get Martin's Love the Whistle t-shirt. Look at that. Martin doesn't come with the t-shirt. You have to pay extra for that. As I said earlier, it's just one drink. You can get Referee Forum merch, Sexy and a Blow It t-shirt, all made in Liverpool, this stuff. So if you want to support local, links in the description below. Nathan, you can hire him by the hour. I know a young lady did that yesterday, actually. Yeah. So she had a very, very good feedback on his Tinder. So there we go. Folks, thanks very much if you're watching this. Make sure you like, subscribe, check us out on Spotify. And until next time, thanks very much for watching and bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.